Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I decided to use Shadow Drapion in the Ultra League. It's one of my favorite safe swaps to use just because of how spammy it is and how great its coverage of dark and poison type damage is. It's also a fantastic core breaker for some teams, same with Trevenant, which we have it paired with here, and also Mandibuzz, a massive tank, a great lead, and a Pokemon that is great paired alongside these other two Pokemon. Let's take a look at the battles and see what this team can do. Alright, let's head into game number 1 and see what we can get up to with our Mandibuzz in the lead. A Shadow Ampharos, probably one of the worst leads to see just because electric type damage is one of the most offensive types in the game, but we have two Pokemon in the back that can kind of handle this. I'm going to safe swap my Shadow Drapion. As we said, this is our safe swap here today, and it's going to have a lot of damage, a lot of speed getting to these crunches. Our opponent ends up no-shielding that first attack. Probably a good no-shield by them. Sludge Bomb would do more damage, and they knew that was going to be a crunch, so a good no-shield. And they do have 2 Thunder Punches, it looks like right now, which means either we're going to take a lot of damage, or I'm going to invest 2 shields at this point. I know that my Mandibuzz is very bulky, and that switch advantage is very nice for a Trevenant, and I'm also thinking if they want a double shield on their own, then I can get both shields back, make it so this thing is not going to be anywhere near as big of a problem for a Mandibuzz, or even our Trevenant, which at this point, even Trevenant wouldn't really want to see this, because it's possible it has Brutal Swing, which would do a lot of damage there, so neutralizing this as much as we can, I think, is going to be good. We end up making a catch on our Trevenant. I think they're one Volt Switch away from getting to another move here, but this is going to be a Thunder Punch. It's going to do almost nothing to our Trev, and they bring in their own Trevenant here. This is good to see. Obviously, Trevenant is not going to be in a great matchup here, but we are able to take a Seed Bomb. They were not confident that they would win CMP, and now we can go for the Shadow Ball, knock out their Trev, and at least get some use out of this Pokemon. You have to keep in mind, I think that Ampharos is one more Volt Switch away from getting to another move, so if they happen to come back in with that at any point, I need to make sure that they're not going to throw a move either against our Drapion or against our Mandibuzz. Looks like they come in with a Tapu Fini, a bit of a tricky Pokemon to see now that both of our answers to this are down, but we have a Seed Bomb at the last second that we get off here, and I think that we have a little bit of health left over on our Drapion as well that we can go for some Poison Stings and maybe chip him down a little bit more. An Aerial Ace is not going to do a lot of damage here. Unfortunately, Mandibuzz is a very bulky Pokemon, but I think we can survive one Nature's Madness, clear the debuff, force him to throw energy here, or come in with the Ampharos. I love this for us right now. We drain their energy here. We'd either get that Poison Sting down or they'd have to throw energy. So at this point, this Thunder Punch is going to be wasted. We can farm this down before even taking a Volt Switch, and I think either we can get up to 2 charge moves here, or maybe an Ace plus Snarls will be enough to win us the game. We have the Aerial Ace coming through. It's not going to do a lot of damage, not even close to Snarl downrange at this point, but we can go for the Dark Pulse here, knock out this Tapu Fini on CMP it looks like, but we know that Nature's Madness didn't do that much damage to us the first time they threw it, so I should be able to survive this, get this move off, and knock out this Tapu Fini. Two very interesting Pokemon that just kind of hard counter our Mandibuzz here this game, but luckily Mandibuzz able to take them both out. GG's to our opponent. Alright, let's see what our next opponent has in store for us here. The Tentacruel lead. Honestly, I really don't like this lead matchup because they have a lot of fast food pressure with these poison jabs. They also have the option to go for Blizzard against us, or even just bait us with Scald and potentially start debuffing our attack. And I don't really have a hard answer to this Tentacruel on the lead or in the backline. It makes this Pokemon very tricky to deal with. What I'm going to try to do this game, though, is chip them down with that Dark Pulse, come in with our Drapion, try to go for these crunches here, and then try to maybe get a debuff or just knock this thing out, make it so our Trevenant isn't going to have to deal with it. In comes a Registeel. We are kind of ABA weak to this Pokemon. Unfortunately, Registeel is one of the most tricky Pokemon to deal with in Ultra League if you don't have the proper switch advantage against it, but we have our Trevenant in the back that can put in some work, and it looks like we do actually get a defense drop on that first move there. This means this next crunch is going to do a little bit more damage, not a lot of damage or anything, but enough at this point where our Trevenant is in a much better matchup to try to take this thing out, and we actually got back-to-back defense drops there. This is going to make it so much easier for Trev to just farm down. I don't think I can get a full farm down. Unfortunately, Ultra League Registeel is so bulky, but I think we can at least go for a lot of energy, probably get up to 100 and maybe either Seed Bomb them or go for a Shadow Ball depending on what move they throw. If we get our attack lowered, we probably have to still go for a Shadow Ball here. They do lower our attack stat, but we can build up a lot of energy. As I said, go for the Shadow Ball and hopefully be in a better spot now that this Registeel is gone. We know that Tentacruel was still around. Tentacruel, though, is not something I'm actually that scared of, especially up energy now. We can see that the third Pokemon does come in. That is a Feraligatr. Very scary Pokemon to see. Shadow Claw obviously does a lot of damage. They might have Crunch. They probably have Hydro Cannon for sure. So having any sort of charge move pressure against our Trevenant at this point will basically knock us out. I swapped to my Mandibuzz here to try to absorb energy, but they end up swapping back into their Tentacruel here. Luckily, my Seed Bomb did give me a shield advantage, which makes it a little bit easier to take the care of this Tentacruel now, but it is still a little tricky. Are they going to Blizzard us? Are they going to Scald? I think last second I'm going to shield it up, and luckily we do. That is a Blizzard. That easily would have knocked us out from that point. If we would have shielded a Scald, they probably would have got to another Blizzard before we could knock them out, but I think now we can go for these Dark Pulses, try to snarl them down, and have energy to go against that Feraligatr when it comes back in. Gator does come back in here, and I think if this is a Hydro Cannon, we should survive. An Ice Beam obviously would basically knock us out, but that would be a lot of energy for them to have to expend, and most Feraligatrs I've seen in this meta seem to be running with the Hydro Cannon and Crunch moveset rather than Ice Beam. We go for the Aerial Ace here. Unfortunately, no shield is drawn, but we have another Ace loaded. If they let this go, I think I can Shadow Claw this down. If they shield, I could probably get to a Seed Bomb. They let it go. Trevenant, do your thing. Try to fast move this down all the way if you can. Even if you can't, if I get this into range where Snarls are going to be enough to knock them out, I might still be able to win this game. Hydro does get shielded up here. Are they at another move? Not quite yet. They get it at the last second, but I think at this point, Mandibuzz, it might not have a lot of attack, but Snarl, it's going to be able to knock out this Feraligatr and take the backline over a very tricky matchup. GG's to them, a very close game. All right, what does our next opponent have in store for us? It is going to be a Whimsicott, an Ultra League Whimsicott. It's also shiny, maybe a Shundo Whimsicott. That'd be crazy. We instantly swap out to our Drapion here, and for some reason they don't swap out instantly. We got actually quite a few Poison Stings, which the Whimsicott honestly does not want to take here. They come in with an Obstagoon, not the hardest answer to our Drapion, especially because we have Sludge Bomb here, which does so much damage. We're going to go for Cross Chops, obviously, in this matchup. Cross Chop, not the strongest move in the game, but it's going to start adding up after these counters, and even though I think I can get a shield advantage here, I don't think I can flip switch in the 2 shield. I have another Sludge Bomb coming through. Are they going to shield or let it go? They do end up using the first shield here this game. If I shield up, I know I can get to another Sludge Bomb. I'll give them a farm down here, but I think that's fine, because Cross Chop doesn't really threaten our Mandibuzz, and I can maybe use a shield advantage on our Trevenant to sweep the backline. We throw yet another move here with this Sludge Bomb. It does get shielded, so 2 shields down from our opponent. At this point, after those Poison Stings that I got into that Whimsicott, they might be in range where 2 Aureliuses could knock them out, or potentially just some Shadow Claws plus a Shadow Ball with our Trevenant. I can absorb this energy. I want to get up to 100 energy myself, even though I know I won't knock them out with a single Ace here against this Obstagoon. I still want to overload on energy, just in case they try to hard swap in back with that Whimsicott. They have a decent amount of energy, right? They didn't swap out instantly with that Whimsicott, so they're kind of close to getting to a Moonblast, but as long as we stay outside of Seed Bomb range, then it doesn't really matter how many of these Cross Chops we're going to be taking here. Counters are adding up very slowly. We get up to 100 energy. We have back-to-back Aerialaces. I can throw another move here in just a second, or I can try to fast move this down with my Trevenant, which I don't think is a good play, but I think it's a play that we might have to try to go for here, because this is just such an awkward farm down. I'm going to swap out after absorbing this Cross Chop, and then we see that their third Pokemon here is going to be a Jellicent, one of the best Pokemon for our entire team to see. We're not weak to this with either our Drapion, our Mandibuzz, or even this Trevenant, especially up energy that you threw after 4. I know for sure that is just a Surf. I can no-shield that, survive it, build up to 100 energy ourselves, get a Shadow Ball off, and this should be more than enough to knock it out after these Shadow Claws that I've gotten onto this Jellicent. It knocks them out here. That Whimsicott is still alive, same with that Obstagoon, but I think at this point, with how much energy I have on Trev and the residual energy I have on Mandibuzz, we should still be in a good spot. We go for the Shadow Ball. They don't make a catch because I don't think their Switch Clock was quite yet up, and the Shadow Ball is going to do devastating damage to this Whimsicott, put them into fast move farm down range, and our opponent realizes there's not much they can do. GG's to them. Alright, our next battle, we are going to have Mandibuzz lead. Okay, finally a decent lead here today against an Annihilate, a very strong lead, but a lot of these have been running Ice Punch I've seen in Ultra League, so we have to keep that in mind. I know Aerialise is not the strongest move, but then we see that they try to safe swap to their Swampert. They tried to catch a move. Luckily, though, we don't fall for it. We waited to see if they throw another counter before throwing energy, and instead we saw the swap, so we can swap ourselves into our Trevenant. This is a great matchup to be in, but we have to keep in mind that we actually have to land a Seed Bomb to knock this out. There's no way we can just Shadow Claw this all the way down, so it's going to come down to landing a charge move, and by the time we get to our third attack, there's a chance they can make a catch if they start double shielding. Luckily, this is not Great League. I can survive 2 Hydro Cannons easily from this thing, and Trevenant, it's not even in the red at this point, so I can go for another Seed Bomb on CMP, draw 2 shields before I even have to shield a single time. If they shield this up, there's a chance I can get to another Seed Bomb before they even get to another attack, which means I can take 2 shields and switch advantage as long as they don't make a catch. This is always a very coin flip dependent thing here. Are we going to throw instantly? Are they going to try to swap? I throw instantly, hoping that they'd try to throw it instantly as well, and predict that I'd predict their catch. Luckily, it goes in my favor. Seed Bomb is going to land, basically knock out that Swampert, and now we see that in comes a Shadow Gliscor. This is kind of scary, but I know if I just swap back to my Mandibuzz here, they can't really swap back into their Annihilate. I have energy here, and I can save my Trevenant in the backline for that Annihilate later on. They throw a move, obviously. Gliscor normally is running Aerialise in this meta. It does come through. It does a decent amount of damage to us, but not anywhere near enough to start putting us into the yellow or even start threatening a knockout. Another Dark Pulse is going to come through with our Mandibuzz, and it is going to put them within fast move farm down range eventually, but also just in range where if I throw this Aerialise, I can knock them out right now, make sure this thing is not a threat for our Drapion in the backline, and now Aerialise is going to knock them out. The Annihilate, rather, does come back in. We can get to an Ace here. If this isn't a close combat, I think we should survive even an Ice Punch. At this point, Mandibuzz is so bulky, we should survive it. That is a Shadow Ball, not even an Ice Punch there. We survive, we throw the Aerialise, and now I think we can come back in with Trevenant, make it so we don't even need our third Pokemon this game. Trev comes back in, I think we can get the Shadow Ball, we get it at 1 HP Trev, just barely knocking out this Annihilate and taking the game. GG to our opponent, a very close match. Honestly, not really. It was a pretty RPS game, but Mandibuzz proving why it is so strong. Alright, next game, we have the Mandibuzz in the lead against yet another Annihilate. What I love to see here, and hopefully we can keep it off of our Drapion. Probably the worst match on our team against that Annihilate would be Drapion. They safe swap a Feraligatr, but since they did a counter before swapping out, I actually get this move before they get to theirs. I can chip them down pretty easily, then come in with our Drapion, absorb all of the damage from Hydro Cannons, and know they cannot fast move us down with Shadow Claws after they start going through these Hydro Cannons. They need to land 2 moves if they ever want to flip switch, and they don't quite have enough energy to do that, in my opinion here. I think I swapped out when they only had 1 Hydro Cannon, so after getting that chip damage, I know I will always pace to these crunches right before they get to their second Hydro. We get a defense drop there too, which is kind of nice, but also kind of unimportant for us this game. I'm going to shield this up, and what I want to do here is I hope that they're going to shield this next crunch. I don't need switch this game. I know I have Trevenant. I can one-shot that Annihilate with a Shadow Ball with our Trev, so if they shield this up, I'm just going to let my Drapion go at this point, farm this down with Trev, and start Shadow Balling whatever it could be in the backline. They do throw another move here. We no shield, and since I got so many debuffs here, there's no way we can't just Shadow Claw this down before they get to another move, and now if that Annihilate comes back in, we overfarm a ton. If it's anything else, I guess we'll see how it is, but they come back in with that Ape. I know, just overfarm here. There's a chance a Shadow Ball would have just knocked them out here, but I think having energy is going to be critical to winning this game. We shield up an Ice Punch. Unfortunately, it is a bait, but we have the Shadow Ball here, and I guess they knew they didn't have much play against Trevenant up that much energy. GG's to our opponent. Mandibuzz lead, okay, against a Greedent. This one might take a second. This is one of the bulkiest Pokemon in the Ultra League, one of the spammiest as well. I used it the other day myself, and here we are using another one of the bulkiest and spammiest Pokemon in the game with Mandibuzz. The one good thing about this matchup that gives Mandibuzz a little bit of an edge is they're using Mudshot here. Mudshot is not exactly the best damaging move, especially not against flying type Pokemon, so even though my Snarls aren't doing a lot of damage, they're adding up quite a bit more than these Mudshots are. I think at this point in this matchup, if I want to win the Zero Shield, I have to go for 3 Dark Pulses and then an Air Release if I want to knock them out. They probably have to go for like, I don't even know how many body slams, like 6 or 7 to knock out our Mandibuzz. Kind of crazy how many they have to get to, but I know I can survive. I know I can get to 4 moves before they can knock us out. We have another Dark Pulse loaded, and I think at this point Mandibuzz is going to be able to neutralize this, make it so our Trevenant doesn't have to deal with it. Same with our Drapion. Drapion does not want to take the ground type damage from the Mudshot or the spam that is body slam spam, so we are going to avoid this with our backline, which honestly is not great into this. And I'm thinking once this is gone, hopefully my backline will have a lot more play. You throw yet another Dark Pulse here. We're getting close to another Air Release. What are they going to do this game? They throw yet another charge move here. They cannot fast attack us down with this Greedent, so I know I can get to another Ace, knock them out here, and be in a very good spot. In comes an Annihilate. I throw the Air Release because I know up energy, Annihilate can probably start Shadow Balling or Ice Punching, or maybe Night Slashing our Trevenant in the back, so just getting a bit of chip, making it so it's going to be in range of a Seed Bomb, I think is going to be a very smart decision. We go for the Seed Bomb here. After the Seed Bomb buff, I'm pretty sure this is enough to knock them out. If they shield, it's going to be very good for us because I think I can shield and get a lot more energy out of this matchup. We end up shielding. What move is it going to be? They go for the Night Slash bait, a little bit unfortunate, but I think at this point just shield once more, farm them all the way down, and I should be in a great spot setting up my Trevenant in the backline. We still have our Drapion that we have not used yet this game as well, and we know that Greedent is still alive, but it's not going to be able to do too much here. They can maybe get to 1 move at most, and their final Pokemon is a Jellicent. We have so much play into this. As I've said, Jellicent is probably one of the best Pokemon for my entire team to see here, so seeing it here I think is going to put us in such a great position. We go for the Seed Bomb on alignment. I guess I could have gone for the Shadow Ball there. They overfarmed a little bit too much, but I didn't expect them to let me do that. I just wanted to guarantee the damage, make it so 1 crunch will knock out this Jellicent, and even though this is a Shadow Ball, it'll probably knock us out. I think Drapion at this point is just going to be more than enough to go for a crunch against this, and maybe even Poison Sting down or crunch that Greedent once it comes back in. A Surf will come through, but it takes like 3 or 4 to knock out my Drapion, so I'm really not that concerned about them getting to these moves. Just have to make sure that I land this crunch against this Jellicent, and now that Greedent in the backline is going to have a lot of work to do if it wants to win this game. We have Poison Sting damage. It's obviously not the strongest move in the game, but I think Greedent is low enough at this point. We can just fast move them down and take the win there. GG's to our opponent. Very long matchup against that Greedent, but just barely able to overcome it. Alright, next game against a Shadow Dragonite lead, one of the most offensive Pokemon against one of the most defensive Pokemon here. Mandibuzz obviously can tank these moves pretty easily, but I'm seeing that they went for 14 Dragon Breaths. There is a chance this is a superpower, and then they're going to swap out, which is exactly what they end up doing. They try to make a catch here on their Tentacruel, which honestly, Tentacruel is a very tricky Pokemon for my whole team, but I'm thinking as long as I can get shields down, I'm not too worried about that Dragonite. You might expect Trevenant to not have a great matchup into it, but you have to keep in mind Shadow Claw is neutral, Dragonite is squishy, and even Seed Bomb at a certain point it's going to start chipping down quite a bit. So I think at this point getting shields down is going to be the way that I win this game. I think we got a defense drop on that first crunch as well, which means my next one here is going to do so much more damage to them. It's going to almost knock them out, probably put them into a very easy fast move farm down range. So I want to probably shield this and try to Poison Sting down if possible. We'll see if that's even possible at this point though. Poison Sting's not the best move. It's resisted, but they are defense dropped. We'll have to see if we can do it in time. If not, go for the crunch at the last second here and try our best to get as much energy as possible in case that Dragonite comes back in. Looks like we just barely can't fast move down, but we get this crunch off. If they shield, we're in a good spot. If they no shield, I think I might be able to get to another crunch against that Dragonite when it comes back and just barely get to this move. We almost got knocked out there on 1 HP, but this crunch should draw a shield or basically knock them out at this point. All right, so they've saved their shields for something in the backline. They instantly swap out. What was that? Okay, Tapu Koko, one of the scariest Pokemon to see here. Tapu Koko is a very squishy Pokemon, obviously, but a fairy and electric-type Pokemon, one of the best answers to Mandibuzz. And honestly, Trevenant is a very squishy Pokemon itself. Nature's Madness might start knocking us out here if we start letting it go. I know the first one is going to do the least amount of damage, but I don't want to take that move and just get farmed down here. I want to keep my Trev alive, and I want them to force energy against my Trevenant once again. I know, though, look how much damage we've done to this thing already. If I go for another Seed Bomb, draw a shield, I have energy on Mandibuzz. As long as I'm careful with my energy management in this game, I can probably go for another charge move against this Tapu Koko, a charge move against that Dragonite, and I might be able to win this game taking out two Pokemon that are generally kind of strong against our Mandibuzz, using Mandibuzz just spamming out charge attacks. They throw another move here. I know they're one Volt Switch away from their next attack. They swap out. We overfarm as much as we possibly can. We are one fast move away from getting to another charge attack against that Tapu Koko. So we throw the Ace, it knocks out the Dragonite, do one Snarl, and throw the Dark Pulse, knock out the Tapu Koko with the Dark type attack. Why not? Just take it out here, guarantee the win. GG's to them, a very cool team, just barely able to overcome it with a little bit of bulk and a lot of spam with their Shadow Drapion. All right, our next opponent, Mandibuzz in the lead. Okay, well, this is a bit of a team breaker, right? We obviously have a flying type in the lead, a grass type in the back, and this Pokemon that we're fighting against right now, this Shadow Alolan Sandslash, has Drill Run ground type damage against our poison type. So this is not exactly the best thing to see here, but we have to keep in mind Mandibuzz is actually resisting these Shadow Claws. So I think it's going to kind of play out like Great League does, where Mandibuzz can take the Zero Shield matchup, maybe the One Shield matchup. You survive 2 Ice Punches. It makes it much more awkward for this Ice type than you might expect it to be. We survive that move. Look, they're below half health before we even are. We have the next move loaded. I'm totally fine just soft losing this matchup or taking a shield advantage to set up my backline for potential success. We go for a Dark Pulse once again. It does get a shield here, it looks like, and now even though we will get knocked out by the next move, I don't really feel like shielding because I do have this shield advantage. I can probably crunch this Alolan Sandslash or potentially Seed Bomb or Shadow Ball it later on, depending on how this game plays out. If they see my Drapion come in, there's a chance they actually want to save their Ace Slash. I know some of them would probably realize if this is what comes in here against an Ace Slash, they might want to save it, and it looks like this one did. They swapped out to a Tentacruel here. Tentacruel is a very common Pokemon in Ultra League, a bit of a tricky Pokemon, as I've shown today for us to deal with, but Drapion is in a decent spot, spamming out crunches here. But I need to keep in mind that A-Slash has energy on it. That energy could be very catastrophic if we don't manage our own energy properly here. I know I can maybe get a lot of energy on Drapion, maybe get a farm down as well with our Trevenant. If we can get a nice farm down here, maybe shield and farm down or see what move they throw. If this was just a Scald, I know I survive. It looks like it is going to be a Scald here, not a Blizzard. I can get a full farm down, have energy to go against that A-Slash if it comes back in. Luckily, no debuff against us here, but I think that A-Slash is outside of range where a Seed Bomb would knock them out. I think I have to go all the way up to a Shadow Ball here. They come back in with A-Slash. I throw the Shadow Ball. Hopefully they think that I'm getting greedy, that I tried to Seed Bomb them here, but they shielded up. Maybe they're kind of weak to Grass or maybe Ghost in the backline. It's going to be very close to see what we could possibly do this game. Trevenant, it's not really the bulkiest Pokemon here. We're in the red, but there is still a chance with the shield that we have and with the energy we have on Drapion. Maybe there's still a Pokemon in the back that we could beat. Maybe another Water type that we could Seed Bomb. It is going to be a Water type, but a certain Water type that's actually weak to Dark type damage. We already had basically a crunch letter. We swapped immediately back to Drapion here. I think at this point we can get to 2 crunches, knock out this Jellicent before they can even knock out our Drapion, and we can take the win out of a very dire situation, a terrible lead, but just barely because Jellicent has no play against our team. Take the win against that lineup. GG's to them. All right, our next opponent here, Mandibuzz into Shadow Charizard. This is where we need to see it. Our Trevenant does not like seeing this one bit, and I know that while Shadow Blast Burns are going to do a lot of damage, I can't really go down shields first, I don't think, because if I do, then I start letting them kind of play around me a little bit more, and Mandibuzz is such a bulky Pokemon, wasting a shield against a Blast Burn, even though I knew that was a guaranteed Blast Burn, I feel like would be a mistake. They safe swap a Registeel. Obviously, Trevenant is a hard wall to this. We resist the Electric type damage, the Fighting type damage, and the Normal type damage, so this is a great spot, right? Well, apparently not for this Registeel. They are running Flash Cannon. This has turned catastrophic very quickly. Now, if I want to knock out this Registeel, I'm going to have to go down shields, which is a very terrible position to be in, especially when you know there's a Shadow Charizard that is just going to get a huge farm down against you, leverage energy against us, and put us in such a terrible spot. We have to shield that Flash Cannon, though. If I don't, how am I going to knock out this Registeel? I kind of have to keep my Trevenant alive. There's a chance that maybe I can get to a Shadow Ball or a Seed Bomb against that Zard, maybe get my shield back, but they're still going to get so much energy out of this matchup, and since I don't have a Water type on my team, I'm going to be in a very awkward position either way. I try to throw the Dark Pulse, but unfortunately they made a perfect catch here on an Annihilate, meaning that this move is basically wasted. I should have gone for the Air Release, or I should have thrown instantly rather than doing one Snarl against that Shadow Charizard. Now that they have so much energy on Zard, I am wasting my energy against this Annihilate. They're just going to let everything go here, I'm pretty sure, because at this point, they know their win condition is going to be energy and shield advantage Charizard just sweeping my backline. Ace does come through and knocks out that Annihilate, but at this point, I don't really know what to do. I can try to shield this, I can try to let it go. I do have a move, so I think that this is actually one of my best opportunities to draw a shield from this Charizard. So I'm going to shield it up, try to go for this Dark Pulse. I think that I might be able to survive a Blast Run with my Drapion if I can, and I can get a Crunch, and then I can get to a Shadow Ball with our Trevenant, which I am very close to a Shadow Ball. There is still maybe a sliver of chance that I can win this game. I go for the Crunch. If I can survive this move here, there is such a small amount of chance that I still have a way to win this game. They go for a Blast Burn here. Crunch is coming through. Can they get to a Dragon Claw against our Trevenant before we're able to get the Shadow Ball here? They might be able to. They have a lot of energy. They realized that the combo play was coming. They waited a turn, and they throw the Dragon Claw right when we swap in. We are so close to that Shadow Ball, but they played this so well. A perfect energy management, honestly, on that Shadow Charizard, taking us out that game. All right, next matchup, Mandibuzz lead into another Shadow Alolan Sandslash. I'm going to play this out the exact same way I did last time. Use my Mandibuzz as a way to get shields down from this thing, kind of soft lose this matchup, and set up either my Trevenant or my Shadow Drapion in the backline. They're throwing Ice Punch here. Obviously, it's not going to do a lot of damage. It's going to put us just above half health at this point, and the Shadow Claws being resisted are not a big threat. I know we can go for these Dark Pulses. They might shield, they might let it go. They're probably going to shield at least one of these at some point here. It just depends on which one. This time, it looks like they shield the first attack, which is kind of interesting. I guess we get a very early shield using a flying type into these ice and steel type Pokemon, so you absolutely love to see that. They go for another Ice Punch here. It doesn't knock us out, obviously, and we can get to another Dark Pulse, and they're going to be forced to throw energy against us very soon. We are 2 Snarls, I think, away from another Dark Pulse here, so if they let us get to this, I'm going to throw this as soon as I can, even if it is on alignment, but they do actually CMP us here. I'm going to shield this, guarantee that I can get this next move landed, because at this point, I can guarantee both shields down using our flying type against this ice and steel type. We get this next move off. Are they going to let it go, or are they going to shield this once again? They end up shielding, and because of that, I don't want to give them a lot of energy lead. I'm just going to swap instantly to Drapion here, shield up this potential Drill Run, and hopefully use energy lead on Drapion and Trevenant in the backline to be in a good spot this game. They try to make a catch here on their Tentacruel. I guess I should have thrown instantly anyway, because why not? I could go for the debuffs as early as possible, but these crunches are still going to add up, do a lot of damage to Tentacruel here, make it so our Trevenant doesn't have to deal with this, and we do know they're at 1 Shadow Claw before they swapped out, which means that they're going to be 4 away from an Ice Punch. Because of that, I always have to make sure that Trevenant is going to be a little bit up in energy, same with Drapion here. I always need to have just a little bit of energy left over just in case they come back in. They go for the Blizzard here, it nearly knocks us out, and they stop tapping. The thing that I think they want to do at this point is they want to farm us down with their A-Slash. Unfortunately for them, though, I got to back-to-back crunches here. I can throw one against this Tentacle, rather, and then one against whatever comes in. If it is that A-Slash at this point, I'll have neutralized 2 very threatening Pokemon for Trevenant at this point. I think at this rate in this game, I think there's a good chance Trev is going to have a lot of play. In comes a Jellicent, though. We've seen that Jellicent doesn't have a ton of play into our team, but I think that Trevenant, down shields and down energy, is probably the one play where it would have some sort of issue into our team. They do overfarm past the Shadow Ball here. I think at that point, they weren't expecting a Shadow Ball to knock out, or maybe they were expecting a catch. I just knew at this point, I'm not going to make any bold plays. I'm just going to go straight for the ball, try to knock them out. It only does about 80% to Trevenant, so maybe that final Hex that they got through mattered to knock us out. Either way, though, we take the win with our Trevenant in the backline. Alright, Mandibuzz into a Shadow Steelix. You might expect another Steel-type Pokemon here to be kind of problematic for Mandibuzz, but most Steelix that I see in this meta are running Psychic Fangs and then either Crunch or Earthquake, which makes it a much better matchup here. We obviously resist all of their charge moves. The fast attacks will start adding up if they start debuffing us, which it looks like this one is going straight for the Psychic Fangs here. Obviously not exactly the best move for us to see, but these Dark Pulses are going to start adding up quite a bit against them as well, and we do get to avoid having a Ground type against our Drapion, and we also get to avoid a Pokemon that probably has Crunch against our Ghost type, so I think we're still in a good spot, even though we are going to have to use our Mandibuzz here. You can see already 2 Dark Pulses almost getting a 3-shot here against the Steelix. If I land another Dark Pulse, I'm pretty sure I can snarl them down, which is going to be fantastic for us. We see another move that they throw. They throw the Crunch rather than the Psychic Fangs. Obviously does a little bit more charge move pressure, but it's still resisted. Maybe they should have gone for Psychic Fangs. I honestly have no idea how to play this matchup out as the Steelix, so I'm not one to tell them how to play this game, but going for Crunch, it's an interesting play to say the least. They are staying in this matchup, though. Makes me think there's probably a Giratina in the back, maybe something else weak to dark, maybe something weak to flying type damage as well, maybe a fighter of some sort. We'll have to see what comes in. That is going to be a Giratina. I love that I can get this move off. It puts it way closer to range where I can go for a crunch with our Drapion, and then maybe Shadow Claw this down here with our Trevenant. I think at this point we're in a great spot, even with the energy lead that this Dragon Breath Giratina has. It's not like the energy here goes anywhere. These Dragon Breaths and these Dragon Claws are not going to do a lot of immediate damage. It's just damage over time that is going to be kind of worrisome. I want to prevent a catch here, throw on a little bit of arbitrary timing, and see if they're going to shield this up or let it go. If they let it go, I think I can farm down with Trevenant at this point. They do let it go. We still have our Drapion, and in comes their final Pokemon. That is a Cresselia. Our Trevenant is going to be more than enough to take it out, and we can take the game there. All right, Feraligatr in the lead this time. So Feraligatr is an interesting matchup. Feraligatr obviously can have Ice Beam, but I think most of them in Ultra League here are going to be running Hydro Cannon and Crunch, which means Mandibuzz can easily survive these Hydros, hopefully win this game just by going for Dark Pulses here, winning the Zero Shield matchup, and see how they want to play it out. Obviously, we do have our Drapion in the back, which is also a decent counter to this, but Trevenant, even though it's a grass type, this is probably one of the only water types that is actually very scared to see. They go for another Hydro Cannon here. I know I can live it. I know I can get to another Dark Pulse, and hopefully win this game using Mandibuzz as a way to sponge all of the energy and damage that they're going to have against us. They go for yet another Shadow Claw here. They haven't swapped out just yet. If they do swap out, we're still in a decent spot, but they end up staying in. We get a bit of an energy lead with our Drapion, and hopefully we're going to be able to have enough of chip damage against this Registeel that we will be in a good spot. I think that for Feraligatr, there was actually one Fast Attack away from getting to another Charge Move this game, so we need to keep that in mind. If they can ever somehow get one more Shadow Claw before getting knocked out, they can Hydro us one way or another, so we have to keep that in mind, keep that in the back of our heads here, just in case they happen to do that. They go for the Registeel play, they go for the Zap Cannons, and I know that Registeel, even though it is a very bulky Pokemon, we got 2 defense drops against them, and these crunches are going to start adding up after the fact. They do get an attack drop of their own. Obviously, the attack drop is much more likely than the defense drop, so getting 2 on our side and then only 1 for them, I think is pretty lucky for us so far, but they try to CMP on this crunch. That's a bit of a mistake. They're either going to have to shield this or just straight up let their Registeel go at this point. They just let Reggie go. That's a crazy play, but their final Pokemon, a Shadow Charizard, probably one of the worst things I could see in the back here, but we're going to go for the Seed Bomb. My only win condition, I think at this point, is that they no-shield this and I can Shadow Claw down. They obviously knew that was a Seed Bomb, so they do no-shield. Is there any chance I can fast attack this Charizard all the way down before they can fast attack us down this game? It's going to be about as close as they can get here. We have the Dragon Claw coming through. We shield that up. We're going for the Shadow Claw damage. At this point, no more Charge Moves are going to be thrown by me this game. I need to fast attack this Charizard down. I need to fast attack down that Feraligatr in the back as well. We shield up yet another Dragon Claw. They go for another move here. This is actually so tricky at this point, though. How are we going to fast move away this Charizard at this point? We have Snarls. It's not going to do that much damage, but we're going to force them to throw energy here, and at this point, they have 1 HP on this, 1 HP on that Gator. I think at this point, just going for Poison Stings, trying to get as much fast move pressure as we can, will win us the game. They tried to snipe down our Mandibuzz with the Shadow Claw to get to Hydro Cannon, but we swapped as well to our Drapion and won the game there just barely. Shadow Drapion, as you saw, was such a flexible Pokemon. Crunch, Sludge Bomb, Spam, having Poison Sting, fast food pressure, apparently taking out a ton of Pokemon in this game as well. It is such a fun pick to use, and I think pairing it here with Trevenant and Mandibuzz was a fantastic idea. Alright, well, thank you so much for watching today's video. I stream Pokemon Go PvP nearly every day at twitch.tv/ItsAXN, so if you want to see this kind of content live, make sure to check me out there. Also, I'm going to upload a lot more to the channel, so if you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe. Alright, well, thank you again for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.